My name is Dhanaraj Thakur. I'll be moderating the session. And the flow is going to look like this. We're going to go through all three presentations first. After that, I'll have a few questions or comments, and then we'll open it up to the audience to ask questions as well. This is and the other thing to note is that this is being live streamed and recorded. Just so Chinmay mentioned that earlier as well. One other quick comment before we get started is that this is a multidisciplinary space. We have presenters come from different backgrounds. It's also a multicultural space. So during our discussion, just let's proceed and communicate in a respectful and constructive way. So with that said, we're going to jump into our presentation. So as you all know, each of you have about roughly 15 minutes. And that will give us enough time for everyone to participate, including the audience. I'd also encourage you all as presenters to ask each other questions as well. Great, okay. So we're gonna start with our first paper and presentation from Walker Brewer from Northwestern University. I won't have much of an intro, Walker, so if you have more to say about yourself, feel free to do that. And Walker, I'll hand it over to you. Great, thanks.
Just showing the PowerPoint, not my notes. Bizaa. Okay. Thank you for having me here, Yale, and thank you to my other panelists. I'm very excited to be presenting on the side of you. My name is Walker Brewer. I am a PhD student at Northwestern University in the Media Technology. Do I not know? Oh, okay. Media Technology and Society program in the School of Communication. I actually come back with entirely from gender studies, so I'm slowly transitioning as a social scientist. And I will be presenting our current research project on the behalf of my research team that includes TJ Billard and Rachel Moran, called Emerging Technologies and the Global Coordination of Misinformation, Unpacking the Transatlantic Flow of Anti-Transgender Disinformation between the United States and the United Kingdom. The mediated flows of misinformation exert significant political influence in the contemporary democracies. But missing from the literature is a robust accounting of what misinformation exists regarding political issues considered less objective by dominant political groups, like those related to marginalized groups that are less commonly understood and acknowledged as false. Also, how misinformation flows between countries in the network transnational public sphere. Our research intervenes in this state of affairs, drawing on large-scale mixed methods content analysis of misinformation regarding transgender topics in the United States of America and the United Kingdom to investigate the nature and extent of mediated misinformation about trans issues, the dynamics of attention to such misinformation across various media and technology platforms, as well as the transnational flow of misinformation between the two countries. The current media ecosystem affords different digital actors a larger influence on mainstream media that allows extreme claims to reframe narratives, reorient political conversations, and propagate false information that dilute social trust in institutions. Within studies of this media ecosystem, a model of misinformation emerges where false information functions as a pollutant in an otherwise healthy media system, as indicated by the phrase infodemic, among others. However, as critical disinformation studies perspectives make clear, misinformation is not actually an emergent form of propaganda, but rather a method for extending pre-existing ideologies on inequality that reassort normative power dynamics through the politicization of fact, creating ambiguity around a concept of truth, which gains traction within the attention-grabbing campaign of news outlets. Scholars productively point out how misinformation around trans issues reaffirms hegemonic understandings of gender and sex binaries by amplifying anxieties around trans youth, the erasure of the category of woman, or the production of anti-gender ideology. These different areas of disinformation circulating online produce a false understanding of transgender identity, which constitutes what Madhavi Reddy, Rachel Kuo, and Daniel Kreis call identity propaganda. The visibility of topics pertaining to transgender people have not been isolated to solely news attention or social media discourse, but rather the interaction between the two, creating a coherence of false information between media elite and everyday social media users. Both play a role in the production of disinformation on transgender topics. For while claims may emerge from social media platforms, news systems ultimately legitimize these claims by reifying misinformation and proliferating their presence in the media landscape. While many countries are developing policies around transgender rights and inclusion, the debates in the United States and the United Kingdom form a networked exchange of narratives and stories that demonstrate the movement of information across national boundaries. While British trans exclusionary radical feminists, or TERFs, and the American far Christian right may be unlikely bedfellows, they demonstrate parallel movements within the United States and the United Kingdom that spread false belief through social media, providing news outlets in both countries attention-grabbing content that flows between different countries through the networked public sphere. These different theoretical perspectives on movement of misinformation across digital platforms within the networked public sphere ground our interest in the particularities of less objective forms of information and how they flow within the global public sphere. The politics of inclusion for transgender people and their rights function as a productive case study to understand how the identity propaganda strategies around marginalized populations become sustained through the flow between nations and media platforms. With this in mind, we have developed a number of research questions on the topic. This presentation in particular will be focusing on questions 3 and 4 as we continue to do qualitative analysis of results. So first, how do the nature and extent of misinformation about transgender topics in mass media and social media differ between the United States and the United Kingdom? And what is the nature and extent of the flow of misinformation regarding transgender topics between mass media and social media in the United States and the United Kingdom? To answer these questions, our research employs a mixed method content analysis that proceeds in 2 phases. We are currently wrapping up the first phase, which involves the generation and validation of a codebook capturing anti-transgender misinformation. This has been achieved through a rigorous process of identifying and thematizing claims made about transgender topics in public posts and paid advertisements on Facebook, and in stories published by prominent news outlets in the United States and United Kingdom. And then rating their truthfulness of those claims by qualified experts. Our data for this project comes from 3 sources: CrowdTangle's archive of public content from Facebook pages, Meta's ad library archive of paid advertisements regarding issues, elections, or politics on Facebook, and Media Cloud's archive of online news media content from the US and United Kingdom. Across all 3 data sources, content was identified through keyword searches that filter for content containing words related to trans identity or transgender-related issues. Because our data includes both news articles and Facebook posts, we employed 2 different first-order units of analysis, the individual article and the individual post, respectively. Within these units of analysis, our second-order unit of analysis across all the data was a discrete claim. To operationalize the unit of analysis of discrete claims, we adapted a synthesis of Helbling and Tresch's core sentence approach and Koopman and Stratton's political claims analysis. Accordingly, claims were identified based on a basic sentence structure in which a claimant makes a statement of supposed truth regarding target issues, groups, or individuals that indicate either implicitly or explicitly support or opposition for the topic. Thus far, we've claimed 1,000 articles and posts have been unitized and coded for the above variables. And currently, we are submitting the surface claims from the subsample into an initial round of open coding in which discrete claims are being identified and labeled for the content of the claims they make using constant comparison methods. This process will result in a validated codebook of claimed identified as misinformation, i.e. verifiably false, or non-misinformation, verifiably true or unverifiable. And then the broader claims or themes. This codebook will then be used to code the remaining content in the general study sample of about 5,000 posts. Because our quantitative analysis is still ongoing, we present here preliminary qualitative findings from our data on the nature and types of misinformation around trans issues. These preliminary findings identify emerging trends in our data set that point to what types of topics around transgender people gain traction within social media and news outlets in the United States and United Kingdom. Within the United States, news outlets such as the New York Times, CNN, and NBC News focus on policies around trans inclusion within gendered spaces and government institutions. A number of articles center on local debates in countries and states that ban students from accessing bathrooms that adhere to a transgender person's gender identity rather than their sex assigned at birth. These stories are particularly pronounced in states with conservative political leanings and present comments from political officials in those states, regardless of whether those states include transphobic rhetoric or false claims. Yet, articles will present the statements with other neutral claims around transgender rights. Given our dataset's inclusion of a large national news outlets, much of the included coverage also focuses on federal political debates, specifically with the policies and statements coming from the Donald Trump administration that banned transgender people from serving in the military in 2017. These articles emerged after Donald Trump's tweets claimed that the military was financially burdened by the cost of providing troops sex reassignment surgery, and focused on the reactions of other politicians on social media and the impact the tweet had in leading to policy change. Other news articles present narratives generally supportive of transgender rights, often present neutral claims that are backed by survey analysis provided by recognized groups like the National Center for Transgender Equality. These articles tend to illuminate how the claims of politicians falsely present the goals of transgender activist movements and try to present facts on lived experiences of trans people in the United States or across the globe. Conversely, the news outlets from the United Kingdom reporting on transgender topics are predominantly tabloid sites like Daily Mail and The Telegraph. As such, the claims that are included in posts have an orientation that is largely antagonistic to transgender rights and supportive of trans exclusionary activists. In an article about parents who allow their children to transition early, a Daily Mail article quotes medical expert Az Hakim, who compared the behavior of the parents to Munchausen by proxy disease, in which a caregiver makes up symptoms in order to create an illusion that their child is sick, calling it Transhausen by proxy. News coverage from the United Kingdom also has a greater coverage of international politics of transgender people in foreign countries, including coverage of India, Australia, and the United States, as examples where transgender inclusion leads to more violence for transgender people, and transgender activists focus on the rights of trans youth. Where news articles that report on policymaking are framed with a neutral valence towards transgender people, claims on social media, particularly within the United States, especially when discussing gender ideology, tend to point towards an individual's stance on transgender rights more adroitly. Claims embedded on Facebook posts and social media advertisements are more polarized, presenting stronger claims that index the overpost feeling towards trans people. Social media posts and advertisements can include videos that are more stylized and tend to have stronger political stances than the news articles. In one such post, alt-right media personality Matt Walsh claims society has fallen down the rabbit hole of gender ideology. We need to push back and reclaim our sanity before it's too late, which presents a claim but without the pretense of rational political discourse. Walsh makes his political stance quite clear and presents claims on transgender inclusion as social issues that erode Christian values of the United States. Social media posts on transgender issues do not only emerge in transphobic postings from right-wing commentators, but also from trans activists combating claims about trans people. While less frequent, there are similar attempts to spread neutral or positive information of transgender people, often through videos that provide lists of claims of statements from transgender folks rather than the report of a particular event or individual statement. Similar to the United States, Facebook posts that originate from the United Kingdom follow similar trends on transgender issues, where claims have clear polarized valence towards those topics. Oftentimes, social media posts for the United Kingdom share narratives or stories that validate their stance to which the inclusion of transgender people within particular organizations. Oh, thank you. This is particularly pronounced when it comes to debates on transgender athletes playing sports, with both transgender exclusionists and trans activists sharing stories of athletes that present one side of the debate on sports. The primary difference between the United Kingdom and the United States is that there's just significantly more social media posts coming from the United States on transgender issues than the United Kingdom. There are similarities in the topics that both countries center on, particularly the question on inclusion of trans people in gendered spaces and the concerns over the provision of gender-affirming care to transgender youth. These topics are typically more claim-heavy than posts about transgender people in political contexts. The topic with the most claims for both countries are ones that reaffirm concerns that gender ideology is detrimental to the development of children over time. Claims around transgender youth emerge in the news outlets and Facebook posts from the United States, yet they are more present on social media than in articles published by news outlets. One Facebook post, for example, falsely claimed that no rigorous scientific studies exist that show the physical and psychological effect of puberty blockers and cross-sex hormone treatments on normally developing children. News media content in both countries repeat such claims about trans youth and the harms that medical intervention can have on their well-being. An article published in the United States in 2022 presents the claim that puberty blockers have been at all the rage in medical communities for now many years. And that children's hospitals advertise it to their transgender centers offering puberty blockers to children that can delay unwanted changes like breast growth, facial hair, periods, and voice deepening, along with hormone therapy to help a person's body match their gender identity. Only a few months later in the United Kingdom, a similar discussion on trans youth occurred in the Daily Mail, where parents of 3-year-olds took children to NHS Travis Scott Clinic claiming that they were trans and when they just wanted a child of a different sex, psychiatrists say. What emerges a parallel between the topics in the United States and the United Kingdom, particularly when it comes to trans youth on medical claims. Even in our initial look into our data, there is a clear presence of misinformation around transgender topics, particularly surrounding the well-being of trans youth, the propriety of state efforts to protect transgender rights, and the assumed biological differences between genders. While misinformational claims may not necessarily, and in all cases, produce anti-trans sentiment in its audiences, these claims are often embedded within larger ideologically driven narrative arguments that support or oppose transgender rights, reconstituting false narratives that existed out of social media into the networked public sphere. Moreover, the clear threads of continuity and misinformation content between the United States and the United Kingdom media content, even alongside evident differences in discursive forms in each country, provide early indication of how our research questions will be answered. Misinformation doesn't operate within national boundaries, but spreads through the shared campaigns that benefit from spreading false misinformation. Our ongoing research project promises to provide more robust quantitative assessments of these dynamics that are beginning to serve from our qualitative review. And we look forward to sharing those in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can switch back.
Great, thank you so much, Walker. So we'll move to our next presenter, who's Bizaa Zeynab Ali from New York University, or based at New York University and the New School for Social Research. And again, Bizaa, if you want to say more about yourself, feel free to do that.
I just want to confirm if everybody can see the screen because I have a lot of visuals. So thank you for joining us today. Really happy to be here. So what I'm going to be doing is sharing some stories from Pakistan about the ways in which generative AI is being used as a propaganda tool. And yet, at the same time, we are seeing that it's also being employed in many ways to subvert state propaganda through what we can call a youth-led movement, which is creating a new geography of protest in Pakistan. So while the study of political uses of AI is an emerging and evolving research space in Pakistan, and I don't have a lot of numbers and data like some of my colleagues here, AI-generated content has clearly been a very significant and visible tool for political activism in the recently held elections in Pakistan and other political developments. So before I share my stories, I would like to bring a little bit of political context to the conversation. So over the past 2 years, Pakistan has witnessed mass protests and social unrest after an extremely popular democratically elected government led by Prime Minister Imran Khan and his party, the PTI, was overthrown via a soft military coup in April 2021. A coalition of 15 military-backed political parties took over the government and immediately engaged in repressive political violence and mass crackdown against any form of dissent. One of the noteworthy facts about these protests, and as you can see from the visuals, was the fact that there was a visibly significant participation of women in the political public sphere. So as the largest political party in Pakistan with almost like 70% public backing, PTI, which is the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, Imran Khan's party, was widely credited for facilitating women's active and massive role and visibility in contemporary Pakistani politics. However, this visibility in the public sphere became extremely problematic with the unprecedented violence that was witnessed against women, and almost 4,000 women were arrested from the streets and from their homes over the past year during the authoritarian crackdown on the protest. And many of these women, I would like to point out, are still in prison. So coming to my story, which is about, the first image that I want to share. And this is somewhat of an iconic image, in media studies language. And this image of the protester girl, as it was informally called, has a bit of an unusual life cycle as an, ordinary AI generated image. The image was generated on the Midjourney version 5, which had just come out last year in May. And this image is inspired by a real life event that took place during a huge protest in Lahore on May 9th, 2023, when a young girl, Tayyaba Raja, and that's, an image of her, walking up to a large cordon of law enforcement officials, and she threw her scarf at them as a symbolic protest against the state oppression. So this is actually, I just want to show the visuals that this is actually a real life event that inspired the image. And that's Tayyaba Raja. She was later arrested and she has been recently released after spending 10 months in prison. And I just want to quickly also show the visual because so the reason why I'm showing this is because apparently this, after this event happened, it was like widely lauded. It was basically, it became viral, and the story was also featured in local and international media. And it was also lauded by prominent political figures in Pakistan, including Imran Khan, who tweeted a motivational message along with the image of women being subjected to horrific state violence. So now, this is really, the point that I'm trying to bring towards, that this the day after Imran Khan posted the tweet about this image, the information minister in Pakistan actually held a press conference over the fact that the image was fake, and that Imran Khan and his party were spreading fake news and misinformation. She also went on to say that no such incident happened, and added that Khan was giving the world a wrong impression that the women protesters' rights were being violated, when in fact no women were targeted by the security agencies. So how does AI become fake news, and how is this even possible? Given the clear visual evidence of the large-scale violence happening against women, and particular, this girl's personal victimization, these statements are perhaps a useful example of the ways in which the liar's dividend is employed by political actors to obfuscate the truth about repressive state practices And it presents an unusual case where randomly generated AI protest was picked up to suppress genuine political activism as fake. In this case, it's hard to imagine how this viral image could be considered disinformation by any definition of the term, as it was reflective of the well-known and widely established lived reality. And also, there was no malicious intent or false claims made by the creator of the image or the people who were circulating it. However, at the same time, the same could not be said for the state representatives and their networks of media collaborators. And as you can see from these visuals, this was like a widespread conversation that was happening in the media. These people, the media, they were clearly participating in this generation of disinformation by falsifying and obfuscating the truth about the political violence against women and generating informational uncertainty with the help of oppositional rallying, which is the ways in which the liar's dividend is promoted. These examples clearly highlight the unusual peril of generative AI. Technology in manipulating deliberate informational uncertainty and confusion as propaganda to suit the state interest. This is especially a matter of concern in underdeveloped context of countries like Pakistan, where there's low digital literacy and lack of familiarity with new developments in the digital medium of art. However, it's worthy to note that one of the effects of such false state propaganda about, generative AI and the publicity that was generated by this image of the protester girl led to a broad public conversation about the generative AI tools. And then all of a sudden, there was a widespread and noticeable increase in the visibility of, AI-generated images from Midjourney and DALL-E. And you could see these images all over the digital sphere. These works created powerful visuals to symbolize the current political moment. And the generative AI also show, these images showcased inspirational or informational messages, memes with political humor often targeted towards the state agencies and the ruling elite. And this artivism was aimed towards resisting invisibility and highlighting state oppression, especially against women. Discrediting disinformation, fact-checking fake news, bringing transparency to electoral manipulation, and subverting censorship. In general, AI was doing very important political work in Pakistan over the past 2 years. And I'll quickly share some examples of what I mean by that. So in this, in these examples, these are images that happened, in the post-protester girl scenario. And these are again, they're inspired by real life events. And you can see there's like this girl, she was surrounded by the police when she came out to, campaign for her elections, the night before the election was supposed to happen. And this this image shows her sitting stoically while being surrounded by the police who came to arrest her. And then the other image on the left, you can see is the wife of a prominent politician who was brought to court just to harass him and intimidate him into making political decisions. And again, there's like broad imagery that shows, like the boots and the roses, etc., which make, strong statements. Again, so some of the work that these AI images were doing, helping with the electoral manipulation. This again is another thing that happened. The few days before the elections, the PTI electoral symbol was taken away. So within a few days, there was like these mass campaigns that popped up by unknown people, and they went viral. And so in response to this deliberate voter suppression, an army of volunteers and digital citizens came out. All right, this was another, thing that was happening with the, with the AI images. And this in this case, what happened was that, one of the politicians, she was basically assigned, to create disinformation about PTI, the fact that, people were, that women were being marginalized and not allowed to participate. And she claimed she was a member of PTI, but then again, there was a fact-checking viral campaign that was also AI-led. Lastly, one other thing that the AI images were doing were they were, in a way, helping to subvert censorship. There was like broad censorship happening, every time there was a PTI rally or there was, some kind of a, statement that was being given. PTI politicians were not allowed to appear in public. So, what the government was doing over the past year, they shut down the internet almost 13 times. So there was further, there was other memes, like sharks, shark baiting, etc. And lastly, the other important ways in which the AI was used was to generate this artificially generated speech by Imran Khan, because, who had not been seen in public for, for over a year. So I would like to just end with this conversation. I would like to conclude by saying that I have more questions that I have answers at this point. And there are clearly some important takeaways from this conversation. And the above examples underline this significant importance of AI in the recent Pakistani elections, but they could also provide a point of reference for future conversations about AI's political role in the majority world. And AI-generated content, as we can see in these cases, played an exceptionally important role in a politically charged atmosphere. And these cases clearly suggest that, they help to facilitate the acknowledgement, advocacy, and integration of diverse, marginalized perspective into the mainstream political sphere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Bizaa. Great. So then our third and final presentation in this session is from Kiran Garimella, who's based at Rutgers University. And again, because I only have that information, Kiran, feel free to say. Thanks. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is, yeah. So I'm based at Rutgers University. I am a faculty there, assistant professor in the School of Communication and Information. So Rutgers is the State University of New Jersey. Many people don't know that. Okay, so I'm going to talk about generative AI on WhatsApp in India. So the two main things I'm going to talk about are prevalence of generative AI content. So this is quantitative study. And also implications, specifically for a platform like WhatsApp. Also in this context, it's for India, but I think this is going to talk about like the findings generally apply for other platforms and other contexts as well. That's specifically about like production, distribution, video. Okay, so because again, for a US audience, I always have to have this this introduction about WhatsApp, like because WhatsApp is not very widely used in the US. So it's one of the biggest end-to-end encrypted social networks with over 2 billion monthly active users. And they're like really, really huge numbers of people who use this. So over 500 million Indians are on WhatsApp. 100 million Brazilians use it. Like also in the US, like over a quarter of the population uses WhatsApp. It's the same as Twitter, and but like the attention that WhatsApp gets in both the academic community as well as in general is very little compared to its size. Firstly, because of access to data, and also because of encryption. Like we really don't know a lot about WhatsApp. And one of the things that I'm doing in my research in general is developing these tools that enable data collection on WhatsApp. And one of the key aspects of WhatsApp, this end-to-end encryption, the issue with that is even the platform, like WhatsApp, does not have access to the content that is spreading on their platform, right? Like, so they only see that A sent a message to B. They don't see the actual content of what was sent. And because of all these other reasons, it's very hard to get data. So what we did is we designed this data donation methodology where we get permission from the users, they opt in, and they donate some data that we can use for our research. So this is how we get the data. So this is a privacy-preserving opt-in model for data collection, where the users will give us access to groups, WhatsApp groups that they are a part of. And the way this data was recruited, this data was collected, was by an on-ground survey in 2 countries, large scale, in India and Brazil. So in Brazil, it was in Sao Paulo, which is the biggest city in Brazil, with over 10 million people. In India, it was done in, so this is India, it was done in these 2 places in India. So you might ask, okay, why do I care about like these 2 small regions in India? So I have this very nice plot figure. So this orange region here is Uttar Pradesh, which is where one of the regions where we collected data. And that has a population of over 200 million people, which is larger than all of these other countries. So there are only 3 or 4 other countries which have populations larger than Uttar Pradesh. Okay, so now you are convinced that this is a good thing to collect data from there. And so basically what we did is, so we have on-ground surveyors who get consent, like so, and we have a tool that enables easy donation of data, where the users also get to choose what they donate for our research, and we compensate them. Okay, so basically, this is ongoing, so these numbers are a bit old. Now we have a lot more, but around 400 users in India, around 200 users in Brazil, over 1,000 groups in India, millions of messages. So this is, we are getting really large scale data. And so today, whatever I'm going to talk about next, which is about generative AI, this is only going to be about the Indian data. And most of these groups, or all of these groups, are private groups, meaning they're not accessible any other way except with the consent of the user. But they're large in size. So they're over 100 people on average. Like that's just one finding that we had, is that a lot of people have very large groups, and this just is a way that these people use WhatsApp. So, again, the context is, this is in rural India, and most people use WhatsApp as the access to the internet. So, and a lot of these are not explicitly political groups. So they're mostly, your village group, or your caste group, or your whatever, your place where you're learning about things like that. Okay, so what we did then, once we had the data, is we specifically looked at viral content. This is content that has been forwarded many times. So on WhatsApp marks a content as forwarded or forwarded many times, but using this like forwarded many times symbol. What this means is that the content has been forwarded at least 5 hops from the original sender. So, and 5 hops on a network could reach like really a lot of people. So these are potentially viral content, like meaning a lot of people might have seen them. We don't exactly know if it is like, 1 million people or 10,000 people, but it's definitely a lot of people. And we manually coded 2,000 pieces of content in this sort of 5-6 month period. So one of the caveats here is coded for generative AI. So we looked at all the viral content that we found, and then looked at, okay, whether this was created using generative AI. And the caveat there is only, we could only code content that we could explicitly tell. And The good thing or bad thing is that most of the content that is generative AI, currently at least, is, you can see and tell like that this is generative AI. Some generative AI was used, or at least that is the a bias here that whatever numbers I'm going to show you about prevalence will be undercount, because we could only code those that we could explicitly say that these were created using generative AI. We only looked at images and videos, not text, because text is very, very hard to say if it was generated using generative AI. I mean, we have other methods to detect that, but they're not really as reliable as a human judgment. So I don't have numbers for that. Okay, so the prevalence is very low. Only 1% of the content, of the viral content in our entire sample is generated using AI. Okay, but that does not mean that it's low. Like, I mean, it is low, but it does not mean it's bad. Like, it's a lot of this viral content we are saying is organically viral. Again, like I said, like in this context, so these are groups that we got from people. So, and these are content that are virally being forwarded. So people do see them and forward them quite often. So that is definitely an issue. So a few examples of categories of generative AI content. We found like 3 or 4 main categories. The one is misleading content. So things like that were used for political purposes. So all of these are images claiming to be a train station being built in one of those regions. They're not, I mean, they're clearly generative AI. I mean, these could have been like, graphic design things, but if you look at the text here, that's how I knew that, okay, this is generative AI, right? Like, so, but anyway, this is misleading content. The same here for this image. It claims to be, I don't know, it's natural phenomena, but it's, okay, it's generative AI. These types of images were really popular, I don't know, a few months ago, like everyone was doing it, but this is again virally spreading almost. Okay, this is claiming to be Israel's victory parade or whatever in Gaza. This is generative AI, but again, looks really realistic, but yeah, it is not real. Then there are lots of content about like Hindu supremacy, like portraying Hindus as really these sorts of muscular, powerful kind of people with guns and stuff like that. A lot of this type of content. Again, like, okay, and then you have girls in bikinis and stuff like that, like surprisingly, but maybe not. So there's lots of this type of content. And then there is like videos where there is hate speech. And this is actually a video. I don't want the audio to play, but in these sorts of situations, when you don't want it, it'll play. So yeah, okay. Anyway, so okay, the guy is saying something hateful. It's saying it in Hindi, but the one thing I want to show was the image was generated using AI, and then like there was some lip sync again using AI done where he's saying something hateful. And there are many examples of that. Like, so this is again another example. The image was generated, and then so the person is again saying something very hateful. This is generated using generative AI. And then there's a lot of like long tail of like creative content, things like, okay, religious images, assuming, okay, how do religious gods look like when they were kids? Or like kind of some inspirational stories, lots of good morning kind of content, like happy, have a happy day kind of content, and then a lot of memes, like, okay, this is claiming showing Gandhi doing something, whatever, like a funny meme. So this is again another example. So this is an example of the same kind of situation where lip sync was used, but here, like, it's just using a baby face for a non-hateful kind of context. Okay, so what is the takeaway? Is that, okay, it's not very common, but there are uses of it for hate speech and misinformation, which is slightly worrying. But again, we should put that in context. So there is 10 times more hate speech and misinformation, which is not generative AI content, right? Like, so, I mean, we have annotations for that as well. So there's so much more other content than generative AI for misinformation and hate speech. So, and it's also very, very easy to produce. Like whatever misinformation that we see, most of it is just, things taken out of context. Like for instance, okay, you have this Israeli thing that I showed you, that image, you could just take a destruction from Syria and claim it to be destruction of Gaza or whatever, right? Like, so there's so much easier to produce. So the only thing that generative AI, at least in the current form, is bringing is this sort of novelty aspect. Like for instance, okay, you could already have someone recording a video very cheaply saying hateful things, and they spread virally already. But in this case, okay, the value that generative AI is bringing is this sort of, okay, there's this muscular guy who's a monk who's saying something, right? Like, so this is the novelty aspect that generative AI is currently bringing. But otherwise, like, there's so much other, misinformation and hate speech that I don't think it's going to play a big role in the elections, for instance, coming up now in India. So the final thing I want to talk about is the some sort of discussion about like production, distribution, and belief. So first thing, okay, let's say, I think Renee was saying this earlier, is that generative AI now, enables automated production and creates this sort of level playing field for content production. So, even if like everyone can now easily generate content, that is true. But, again, in terms of the political side here, like one of the sides, which is like the BJP in India, has many, many, many more resources than others, right? Like, so here's an example from the Washington Post. The piece, the part highlighted here saying, okay, there were 150,000 social media workers who were working on WhatsApp strategy in a local election in India for one political party, right? Like, so 150,000 people working on social media, like creating content for social media, right? Like, so that means that, okay, this one side is hugely has resources to do this, right? The second argument is, so WhatsApp is decentralized and, it's not easy to distribute content widely, right? Again, that's another argument that's made about generative AI is that, even if people generate millions of, things using ChatGPT, if Facebook can just moderate and say, okay, we'll not allow distribution, that's fine, right? Like, but the thing is, again, one side has much better infrastructure. Like, again, like here's another headline. Like, so this party that's currently in power has tens of thousands of these WhatsApp groups that they use. So they are, again, unmatched in terms of infrastructure, which is also providing the distribution power. And the final thing is, so this thing about moderation by the platforms, because of encryption, there's no moderation on WhatsApp. So there is like zero moderation. So, WhatsApp cannot do anything or at least is not doing anything on WhatsApp currently. And the final thing is about beliefs, right? Like, so, we were talking about, whether users are able to detect and can come to the conclusion about generative AI content. Again, the idea is maybe now, we're able to see and tell, but in the future, we may not be. Again, in this sort of digital literacy context in the global South, like this might be much more dangerous, particularly on a platform like WhatsApp, where you get content from people you trust usually, and so there's a lot of survey evidence that shows that people believe in content you receive on WhatsApp. So just to summarize, like, okay, there's no moderation on WhatsApp. That really complicates things in terms of like distribution, and especially because certain parties are like more well-resourced. This is not a level playing field. So it's not currently a problem, but you never know, like what like the future. There are a lot of issues, especially with these sorts of well-resourced actors with huge distribution networks. This could really get bad. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thanks.
Great, thank you.
Great, thank you all. This is really interesting.